Rain swept across Seattle in long silver strokes, blurring the windows of the Silverlight Cafe as if the city itself were holding its breath. Inside, beneath the low hum of espresso machines and clinking cups, a little girl sat alone at a corner table. Her name was Luna Drake, 10 years old, blind. Her small fingers searched the tabletop for a braille menu that wasn't there, her breath trembling each time a stranger's footsteps passed too close. She tried to sit tall the way her mother had taught her, but fear leaked through the cracks of her composure, like cold air under a locked door. Behind the counter, Maya Carter paused mid-wipe, sensing that familiar pull in her chest, the instinct that rose whenever someone was quietly drowning. She watched Luna reach again, slower this time, hesitating as though bracing for punishment. Before Maya could move, Mr. Collins stepped in. His voice clipped. "Not table 7, VIP only. Wait for Mrs. Drake." But rules have a way of breaking the moment a child's hope slips. Luna's hand brushed a vase, sending it crashing onto the floor. Water spread across the linen like a blooming bruise. The cafe fell silent, and Maya, knowing full well she'd pay for it, crossed the room anyway. She knelt beside Luna, her voice soft, steady, the kind of voice meant for safely guiding someone out of darkness. Outside, a black limo idled at the curb. Through its tinted window, Evelyn Drake, billionaire, tech magnate, and mother, watched every second unfold with an expression as sharp as rain on glass. If you believe that a single act of kindness can alter the course of a life, consider subscribing so you don't miss the stories that remind us what truly matters. Maya knelt beside the fallen vase, her hands steady as she swept the cold water away from Luna's trembling fingers. The cafe buzzed around them, but in that moment, the world narrowed to a frightened child and the soft, grounding warmth in Maya's voice. "You're all right," she whispered, guiding Luna's hands away from the shards. "Nothing here can hurt you." Luna's breath eased, just a little, enough for Maya to see the faintest spark of trust. For a heartbeat, Maya wasn't in the Silverlight Cafe at all. She was back in a cramped apartment, kneeling beside her little brother Eli as he struggled to navigate a world swallowed in darkness. She remembered the nights he woke shaking, afraid of sounds no one else could hear. She remembered how her own voice had been his anchor. That instinct, protect, steady, guide, rose in her again, fierce and familiar. Maybe that was why her next step felt less like a choice and more like gravity. Maya stood, retrieved a cup of warm cocoa and a small plate of pastries, then returned as though defying the rules were the most natural thing in the world. She described each item not as objects, but as textures and shapes Luna could interpret with her hands. The girl's fingers brushed the rim of the mug, then the flaky edge of a croissant, and something softened in her expression. When Maya joked that the stars were just constellations we could trace with our fingertips, Luna let out a shy laugh, small, unsteady, but real, a sound Maya hadn't expected to earn so quickly. The warmth between them held for barely a minute before a shift cut through the room, like a sudden drop in temperature. The door opened. Heels struck the tile in a slow, deliberate rhythm. Evelyn Drake entered the cafe, carrying the kind of silence that made people straighten, without knowing why. Her eyes landed on her daughter first, then on Maya, and the disapproval in her gaze was cold enough to frost glass. "What exactly are you doing with my child?" she asked, her tone level but edged with steel. Luna sat up straighter, reaching instinctively toward Maya. "She helped me, Mom. I spilled the vase, and she was kind." Evelyn's expression didn't shift. She looked at the cocoa, the pastries, the damp cloth still in Maya's hand. "How much do I owe you for all this?" The question was transactional, stripped of gratitude. "Nothing," Maya said, not blinking. "It's on the house." The tension snapped. Mr. Collins hurried across the cafe, his voice tight with panic as he faced Maya. "You're done here, effective immediately." Customers turned. Luna froze. Evelyn said nothing at all. And Maya, standing in the center of the storm she had willingly stepped into, only tightened her jaw, because she had seen this kind of power before, and she refused to shrink beneath it. The rain followed Maya home like a shadow that refused to let go. By the time she reached her small apartment on the outskirts of Seattle, the sky had dipped into a blue-gray haze that made everything look quieter than it truly was. She pushed open the door, and the weight of the world she'd been holding at bay came crashing back in an instant. Bills were scattered across the kitchen table, overdue notices stamped in red, a final eviction warning curled at the edges, and a worn envelope containing Eli's old hospital records. The paper was thin, almost translucent from years of being handled too many times. each crease a reminder of battles fought and barely survived. Maya stood there for a long moment, fingers gripping the back of a chair, letting the silence press against her until it felt hard to breathe. Losing her job shouldn't have surprised her. Life had never missed an opportunity to knock twice. Still, the sting of it settled deep, somewhere behind her ribs, a place reserved for disappointments she refused to voice aloud. The apartment buzzed with the faint hum of a street lamp outside, flickering like a heartbeat struggling to stay steady. Then Eli's voice drifted from the living room, gentle and matter-of-fact, as if he could sense every shift in her breathing. "Rough day?" he asked, not needing eyes to read the truth on her face. Maya exhaled, releasing a tension that had been coiled too tight for too long. She sat beside him, taking in the familiar sight, his hands resting on the piano keys he could no longer see, tracing memory instead of sound. Blind since childhood, Eli carried a strange calmness, a resilience that felt almost unfairly wise. "You'll get back up," he said softly. "You always do." His faith in her was a fragile, luminous thing, and Maya held on to it as the rain tapped against the window like a reminder of time slipping away. The sudden buzz of her phone sliced through the room. An unfamiliar number flashed across the screen, sterile and corporate. When Maya answered, a cool professional voice delivered a message she couldn't quite process at first. "Ms. Carter, this is Margaret Chun, assistant to Evelyn Drake. Mrs. Drake requests your presence at Drake Innovations tonight." For a moment, Maya said nothing. Evelyn Drake, the woman whose presence could freeze a room, the woman who had watched her help Luna through a pane of glass with an expression that revealed nothing. Eli tilted his head. Who was that? Maya didn't answer immediately. Her pulse had begun to thrum, not with fear exactly, but something sharper, something that warned her she was being pulled into a storm far larger than she understood. She grabbed her coat, every instinct screaming caution, even as her feet moved toward the door. "I don't know," she finally said, "but I think I need to find out." And with that, Maya stepped back into the rain, walking toward a building that ruled half the city's skyline, and a woman whose intentions were as unreadable as the night itself. Drake Innovations rose out of downtown Seattle like a kingdom carved from steel and glass, every window gleaming with the cold precision of a ruler who never slept. Maya had seen skyscrapers before, but nothing like this. The building felt alive, humming with the energy of thousands of decisions made every second, each one shaping the fate of people far beyond its walls. As she stepped from the elevator onto the 45th floor, a chill traveled down her spine, not from fear, but recognition. This was enemy territory, and she had walked in willingly. The conference room awaited her at the end of a long corridor, its doors standing open like an invitation and a warning. Inside, Evelyn Drake stood with her back to Maya, staring out over the city as if she owned not just the skyline, but the air between the buildings. Rain streaked the floor-to-ceiling windows behind her, turning Seattle into a mosaic of fractured lights. Without turning, Evelyn spoke. "You acted against my instructions yesterday." Her voice carried the calm of someone used to being obeyed, someone who never raised her tone because she never needed to. Maya stepped forward, refusing to shrink. Your daughter was terrified. Someone had to help her. Evelyn pivoted slowly, as if measuring the weight of every word Maya had just spoken. "It was a social experiment," she said. "I left Luna there intentionally to see who would notice. 17 people passed that table, employees, customers, even your manager, but only you stopped." The explanation landed like a slap. Maya's breath hitched, not from shock, but from anger rising hot and sharp. "You used your child to test strangers? She wasn't an experiment. She was scared out of her mind." For the first time, Evelyn's expression faltered, barely, a tiny break in the armor. "Your reaction," she said quietly, "is why I asked you here." Maya didn't soften. "If this is about money or hush agreements, I'm not interested." But Evelyn wasn't smiling. She crossed the room with the grace of someone who mastered every inch of her environment, then laid a folder on the table between them. "I want you to work for me," she said, "as Luna's companion, her guide, her anchor." Maya blinked. "You fired me yesterday." "I did," Evelyn replied, "and now I'm offering you 10 times what that cafe could ever pay you." She slid a page from the folder, a contract with a salary that made Maya's pulse stutter. Medical benefits, housing allowance, access to resources most people never see. Then another page, this one with a logo Maya recognized instantly. Alden Music Conservatory. "We can arrange an audition for your brother. Evelyn continued. "I hear he's gifted." Alden was a world Eli didn't even dare dream about. For a second, Maya imagined him on a stage, fingers flowing effortlessly over piano keys, finally seen for the brilliance he carried. But the vision shattered the moment she looked back at Evelyn. Something in the woman's eyes was too calculating, too measured. "No," Maya said. "I won't be bought. And I won't let you manipulate me through Eli." The air in the room tightened. Evelyn lifted the folder again, but instead of closing it, she spread out its contents like cards in a game Maya hadn't known she was playing. Photos, employment records, hospital bills, academic transcripts. Every detail of Maya's past laid bare in crisp, organized sheets. "I don't manipulate, Ms. Carter," Evelyn said. "I prepare." Maya froze. There was no malice in the woman's voice, only certainty, the kind that came from having power so immense you forgot it could crush people. Her anger flared again, bright and dangerous, but beneath it something else stirred. Luna, the little girl who laughed when tracing constellations with her hands, the child who deserved better than a life built on fear and controlled truths. Maya inhaled slowly, steadying her thoughts. "I'll do it," she said at last, each word carved from reluctant resolve. "But not for you." Evelyn tilted her head. "Then for whom?" "For Luna," Maya answered, "and for Eli." For the first time, Evelyn Drake's expression shifted into something unreadable, as though she couldn't decide whether Maya was a threat or the answer to a question she'd been afraid to ask. Either way, the deal was set, and the storm surrounding them had only begun to gather. Maya had been inside the Drake mansion for only a week, yet it already felt like stepping into a world where sunlight had to ask permission before entering. The halls were long and hushed, painted in cool tones that made every sound seem smaller, every breath more deliberate. Still, Luna blossomed in Maya's presence like a fragile seed finally finding warmth. With Maya guiding her fingertips across textured books and music sheets, the girl laughed more, asked more questions, reached for the world instead of shrinking from it. Each moment revealed layers of a child who had been kept in shadow far too long. But where Luna opened, Evelyn closed. From the balcony rails, from dim doorways, from behind a glass partition in her office, Evelyn watched them with an expression Maya could never quite read. It wavered between admiration and something far sharper, almost territorial, as though seeing Luna connect with someone else threatened the very structure of her control. The unease thickened each day, an invisible tension humming like electricity in the corners of the mansion. Maya began noticing details, doors slightly ajar where they should be closed, clipped phone calls ending the moment she entered a room, Luna's schedule rearranged without explanation. Something was wrong, deeply wrong, but no one spoke it aloud. One afternoon, while organizing Luna's closet, Maya's hand brushed against a wooden box hidden behind a row of untouched dresses. The box was small, heavy, and locked with nothing more than a simple latch. Luna had been tracing patterns on a braille puzzle nearby, but the moment Maya opened the lid, the girl's head lifted as though she sensed the shift in the air. Inside lay a faded diary and a plain black USB drive. The diary held pages written in a hurried, uneven hand, Luna's early attempts at journaling, full of childish sketches and fragmented sentences about colors she could no longer see. But the USB drive felt colder, intentionally placed, intentionally hidden. Maya plugged it into her laptop later that night, the glow of the screen casting long shadows across her room. The first file opened to a video. A younger Luna stood in a sunlit garden, eyes bright, chasing a ball across the grass. The footage cut abruptly to medical reports stamped confidential and witness statements that had never been released to the public. Then the final blow, a news headline that had been buried. Car accident. Suspected distraction by the driver. Evelyn Drake's name was mentioned once, then redacted in every subsequent document. Maya's breath caught, her pulse hammered. She clicked another file, an email thread between Marcus Drake and Evelyn. "Marcus, we can't keep delaying the treatment. She could regain partial sight. She deserves that chance." Evelyn, "It's not safe. She's not ready." Marcus, "Or you're not." The implication landed hard, too hard. It wasn't just negligence, it was choice. A deliberate decision to halt Luna's progress, to confine her to a darkness that no longer had to be permanent. Maya pushed back from the table, heart pounding. Images of Luna laughing, tracing constellations, stepping cautiously through the mansion's echoing halls, now tainted by the possibility that her mother was the architect of her limitations. If you want to know what happens when truth is bent by the hands of power, when love is twisted into control, like, subscribe, and comment to help us continue telling the stories that make us question what we think we know. Maya swallowed hard. This wasn't just about kindness anymore. It wasn't even about loyalty. It was about justice for a child who had been denied the light for reasons she never chose. From that moment on, she watched Evelyn more closely, mapped her routines, noted her late-night departures and private meetings, because now Maya understood something Evelyn had never intended her to learn. The most dangerous secrets are the ones hidden in plain sight, and she wasn't going to let Luna remain blind to them any longer. The next morning arrived with an unease Maya couldn't shake. Evelyn appeared in the doorway of Luna's study, dressed in a tailored black coat, her expression composed but unnervingly blank. "Luna will be accompanying me to a meeting with the Foundation for the Visually Impaired," she announced. "We'll be gone most of the day." Luna's fingers tightened around Maya's hand, a silent question passing between them. Maya forced a smile, but something inside her twisted hard. She had checked the Foundation's schedule the night before. There was no meeting. As Evelyn guided her daughter toward the front hall, Maya slipped into motion. She reached for Luna's backpack hanging on a hook, her hands moving with the quiet precision born from necessity. From her pocket, she retrieved a mini tracker no bigger than a dime. Eli had once used it to keep track of his cane. Maya pressed the device under the inner seam of the bag, the click nearly inaudible. She whispered goodbye to Luna, brushing the girl's knuckles with her thumb, anchoring them both just long enough for Luna to recognize the tension Maya was trying to hide. The mansion door closed, the car engine started, and the moment the sound faded, Maya bolted upstairs to her room, opening her laptop with shaking hands. A red dot blinked to life on the screen. Not the Foundation's headquarters, not anywhere near the city. The car was heading north, toward the mountains. Her throat tightened. She grabbed her phone and dialed the only person who might tell her the truth. Marcus answered on the second ring. "Maya, what's wrong?" "Where is Evelyn taking her?" Maya demanded. "And don't tell me it's a Foundation meeting. I know that's a lie." Silence. Heavy. Resigned. When Marcus finally spoke, his voice carried the weight of secrets he'd been holding far too long. "She's taking her to a clinic, the same clinic she's used for years." "For what?" "To run diagnostic exams," he said. "To confirm Luna's blindness is stable." Maya's pulse slammed in her ears. "Stable? You mean she tests her to make sure she stays blind?" Marcus exhaled shakily. Evelyn canceled every treatment that could have restored Luna's vision. There was a chance, small but real. She refused them all. The walls seemed to tilt. Maya gripped the edge of the desk, fighting the rising fury. Why would she do that to her own daughter? Marcus hesitated, then said what Evelyn never would. Because if Luna regains her sight, she'll see the truth. She'll see Evelyn for what she really is. And Evelyn is terrified that once her daughter truly sees her, she'll hate her. Those words hollowed the room. Maya grabbed her jacket and flew down the stairs, meeting Marcus at the driveway within minutes. They climbed into his car, gravel spitting beneath the tires, as he sped toward the GPS marker blinking defiantly on Maya's screen. The deeper they drove into the tree-lined road, the darker the sky seemed to grow. Tall firs loomed overhead, forming a tunnel that made the daylight feel thin and breakable. "What did Evelyn tell you about the accident?" Maya asked, eyes fixed on the screen. "Only that it was unavoidable," Marcus said. "But the truth is, she was distracted, and the guilt consumed her. She never forgave herself, not once." "So, she punished Luna instead?" "No," Marcus whispered. "She punished herself. Luna was just caught in the fallout." The GPS marker stopped moving. A solitary building emerged from the mist, a sterile clinic tucked between the trees, too quiet, too isolated to be anything benign. Through a wide pane of glass, they could see Luna sitting on an exam table, her hands clasped tightly in her lap. A technician adjusted a machine beside her, preparing for a procedure Luna didn't understand. Every second mattered. Every breath felt like losing ground. Maya felt something in her snap, a fierce, unyielding instinct that rose like wildfire. She pushed open the car door before Marcus even stopped fully. "Time's up," she said, voice trembling not with fear, but purpose. Because whatever Evelyn Drake intended to do inside that clinic, Maya would not let Luna face it alone. Not anymore. Maya didn't remember pushing the clinic doors open. One moment she was running through the cold mountain air, the next she was inside, breath sharp, heart pounding against sterile walls that echoed every sound like an accusation. Marcus was right behind her, his footsteps uneven, as if he too felt the ground shifting beneath him. The examination room's white light flooded into the hallway, harsh and exposing. Inside, Luna sat on the edge of a metal table, small hands trembling in her lap, while a technician adjusted a machine that glowed an eerie blue. And standing beside her, rigid, pale, caught, was Evelyn Drake. "Maya," Luna whispered. That single word broke whatever restraint Maya had left. She pushed forward, and the technician stepped back in startled confusion. But it was Evelyn who reacted as though struck. Her composure, the armor she wore like skin, shattered. A tremor passed through her hand. Her breath hitched. For the first time since Maya had met her, Evelyn Drake did not look like she commanded the world. She looked like she was drowning in it. "What are you doing here?" Evelyn's voice cracked at the edges, brittle. Marcus didn't answer. He walked past her and dropped a folder onto the counter with a finality that froze the room. Papers spilled across the stainless steel. Police reports, sealed medical evaluations, email printouts, treatment recommendations stamped canceled. The truth lay exposed, impossible to gather back into shadow. "It's over, Evelyn," Marcus said quietly. "The accident, the settlement, the treatments you refused. Everything." Luna turned her head toward the sound, sensing the shift in the air. Her face tightened with confusion, then fear. "Mom?" she whispered. "What is he talking about?" Evelyn's lips parted. No words came out. Maya stepped closer, her voice soft but unyielding. "Luna deserves the truth." The girl slid off the table, her feet touching the cold floors with a sound that felt too loud in the suffocating silence. She reached out, hands trembling until they brushed her mother's sleeve. "Mom, why are they saying this? Why would you stop the treatments?" Evelyn collapsed backward against the counter, breaths coming fast and shallow. She shook her head, a frantic gesture of denial that held all the desperation of someone watching the last piece of their world slip through their fingers. "I didn't want to lose you," she whispered. Luna's voice broke. "You lost me the moment you lied." Then came the line that cut through the room like a blade, spoken with a clarity far beyond her years. "I'm not blind because of fate, Mom. I'm blind because you were afraid of the truth." Evelyn's knees buckled. She slid to the floor, hands trembling as she covered her face. A sound escaped her throat, raw, unguarded, human, not the cry of a titan of industry, the cry of a mother who finally saw the cost of her own fear. The doctor stepped forward hesitantly, eyes darting between them. "Miss Drake, the new treatment has a 60% chance of restoring partial vision. It's real, and it's available today, but your mother has refused it for the past 5 years." The words hung in the air like a verdict. Luna turned toward Maya instinctively, reaching for the one person who had never lied to her, never tried to bend her world into something more convenient. "What would you do?" Luna asked. Maya crouched beside her, meeting her at eye level even in the blinding white light. "Sweetheart, it doesn't matter what I do. What matters is what you want. Your future belongs to you." The room held its breath. Luna straightened, shoulders trembling but firm. She lifted her chin toward the doctor. "I want the treatment." Then she reached for Maya's hand. "And I want her with me." In that moment, under the unforgiving lights of the clinic, something in Evelyn Drake broke, and something else began to heal. She looked up through tear-blurred eyes, witnessing her daughter choose truth over fear, choosing hope over the prison she had been kept in for years. And for the first time, Evelyn did not fight it. She bowed her head, and she let her daughter go toward the light. 6 months later, the air around the Drake estate carried the mellow warmth of early autumn, a season where even the wind seemed to whisper second chances. Golden leaves drifted across the lawn in slow spirals, collecting beneath the maple trees like scattered pieces of sunlight. And on the porch, with her palms resting lightly on the railing, Luna Drake tilted her face toward the yard. "I can see the shape of it," she murmured, her voice trembling with awe. "The tree! It's darker at the bottom, and the leaves look warm." They weren't full colors yet, not the vivid world she once knew, but soft washes of amber and brown, hazy impressions that flickered like memories returning from a long sleep. For Luna, it was enough to feel reborn. For everyone else, it was a miracle stitched together by truth, courage, and choices long overdue. Inside the house, Evelyn Drake stood in the doorway, watching her daughter with a tenderness that would have been unthinkable months earlier. The woman who once ruled her company with iron precision now left the office at 5 sharp, no exceptions. She spent her evenings overseeing the construction of the Drake Vision Foundation's first real treatment center, a place built not for publicity, but possibility. Her staff whispered about her transformation. Partners whispered louder, but Evelyn didn't care. She had traded power for purpose, and the exchange had steadied her in ways wealth never could. In the Foundation's offices downtown, Maya Carter now moved with the quiet authority of someone who had fought for her place and earned it twice over. She coordinated therapy programs, interviewed specialists, and advocated for families who had never been heard before. Her presence grounded the Foundation's mission the way sunlight anchors a growing seed. And then there was Eli. Word of the blind pianist with an ear like lightning spread fast through Alden Conservatory. His compositions were said to carry something luminous, notes that rose and fell with the emotional honesty of someone who understood both darkness and its opposite. Audiences fell silent when he played, breath held, as though he had tapped into something sacred. One evening, as preparations for Luna's birthday celebration filled the mansion with soft chatter and the rustle of decorations, Evelyn approached Maya in the study. She held a slim folder, not unlike the one she had weaponized months ago, but this time her hands weren't steady. They trembled with humility. "I want you to take this," she said. Maya hesitated before opening it. Inside were partnership papers, 40% ownership of the foundation, full creative and operational authority, a level of trust and power Evelyn had never extended to another soul. Why me?" Maya asked softly. Evelyn exhaled. "Because you saw my daughter when I only saw her disability. Because you saw truth where I only saw control. And because this foundation needs someone who isn't afraid to do the right thing, even when it costs everything." Maya closed the folder with care. She didn't agree immediately, but she didn't refuse either. Some choices required stillness before acceptance. Later that evening, the garden transformed into a small festival of touch and sound. Children with visual impairments gathered around textured sculptures, exploring shapes carved specifically for curious hands. Soft music drifted from Eli's piano. And at the center of it all stood Luna, wearing the tinted glasses that shielded her recovering sight, laughing as she guided a younger child through a sculpture she had made herself. Evelyn knelt beside Maya as they watched. Her voice was quiet, almost fragile. "I used to be blind too, you know, in my own way." Maya looked at her, the autumn light catching in her eyes. "We all are," she replied. "But we find our way back. We shine again because we choose to." The moment settled over them like a warm blanket. Two women who had begun as enemies now standing on the same side of the truth, united by a child whose vision of the world came from more than sight. And in the glow of lanterns, in the laughter of children, in the soft golden edges of a life rediscovered, it became clear. Sometimes the greatest miracles are not sudden. Sometimes they unfold quietly, leaf by leaf, choice by choice. As the sun dipped behind the maple trees, the garden glowed with the soft gold of a day preparing to rest. Luna stood in the center of the yard, holding up her newest creation, a canvas washed in gentle strokes of blue and amber, the very colors she had once believed she would never see again. The painting trembled slightly in her hands, not from uncertainty, but from pride. Maya watched her, then looked toward Evelyn, who stood a few steps behind, her expression warm in a way it had never been before. In that quiet moment, Maya understood something simple and profound. They had all been changed by this journey, not because of what they had gained, but because of what they had chosen. Truth over fear, compassion over control, hope over despair. Sometimes salvation does not arrive as a miracle or a revelation. Sometimes it arrives as a person who sees us clearly, even when the world does not. Someone who reminds us that we are more than our mistakes, more than our scars, more than the darkness we once believed defined us. Thank you for sharing this story. If it touched you in any way, consider liking, subscribing, and leaving a comment to support more stories about healing, truth, and the courage it takes to begin again.